healthcare system. I love the slogan. It's a great slogan. Make America healthy again. Fantastic. Unfortunately, the Trump administration is doing just the opposite. You don't make America healthy by throwing 15 million people off the health care they have, which is what Trump's big, beautiful bill does. You don't make America healthy by, as a result of these Medicaid cuts, shutting down or creating a decline in services for hundreds of nursing homes, community health centers, and hospitals throughout the country. But it gets even worse than that. Secretary Kennedy has just fired the head of the CDC, Dr. Susan Monterez, who has been on the job for just a few weeks. Her crime? Well, she refused to be a rubber stamp for Kennedy's anti-vaccine conspiracy theories. That is her crime. That's why she was fired. In other words, she believes what virtually the entire medical and scientific community believe, and that is that vaccines are an enormously important public health tool which protect the health and welfare of our children and all Americans. It is a bit absurd to have to say this in the year 2025, but let me say it. Vaccines are safe and effective. Let me say it again. Vaccines are safe and effective. That, of course, is not just my view. Far more importantly, it is the overwhelming consensus of the medical and scientific communities. The American Academy of Pediatrics, the largest professional association of pediatricians in our country, representing over 67,000 doctors who treat our kids every day. They called immunizations, quote, one of the greatest public health achievements, preventing tens of thousands of deaths and millions of cases of disease, end quote. That's the pediatricians. The American Medical Association, the largest professional association of physicians and medical students in our country, representing over 270,000 doctors, along with 79 leading medical societies, recently said that vaccines for flu, RSV, and COVID-19 are, quote, the best tools to protect the public against these illnesses and their potentially serious complications, end quote. The World Health Organization, an agency comprised of some of the most prominent medical experts around the globe, representing 194 countries, found that over the past 50 years, vaccines have saved 154 million lives and reduced the infant mortality rate by 40%. Unfortunately, Mr. Kennedy, the head of U.S. government public health agencies, doesn't agree with the leading doctors and scientists in our country and around the world. He believes that, quote, autism does come from vaccines, end quote, despite more than a dozen rigorous scientific studies involving hundreds of thousands of children that have found no, quote, no causal association, end quote, to link vaccines to autism. He has called the COVID-19 vaccine, quote, the deadliest vaccines ever made, end quote, despite findings from the WHO that these vaccines saved 20 million lives throughout the world during the pandemic. He has claimed that the polio vaccines killed more people than polio ever did, despite the fact that the scientific community has found that the polio vaccine have saved 1.5 million lives and prevented over 20 million people from becoming paralyzed since 1988. He has absurdly claimed that, quote, there is no vaccine that is safe and effective, end quote. That is the head of the Health and Human Services Agency. So, what does this mean for the health of the American people? Short term, it will mean, unless we change this situation, that for millions of Americans, it will be harder to get life-saving vaccines. Already, the Trump administration has effectively taken away COVID vaccines from healthy adults and kids unless they fight their way through our broken healthcare system. It will also mean higher out-of-pocket costs if people are able to get the vaccine at all. And the long-term implications are even more dangerous. As the former chairman of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, I will never forget holding a hearing 2 years ago with the major government officials responsible for protecting us from a new pandemic, including the head of the CDC. Without exception, every one of these agency heads said that while they could not predict the exact date, there will be a future pandemic, and we must be much better prepared for it than we are today. Unfortunately, despite that reality, Secretary Kennedy's actions are making a dangerous situation even worse by defunding the research that could help us prepare for the next pandemic. In August, he canceled nearly $500 million in research for the kinds of vaccines that helped us stop the COVID pandemic. Secretary Kennedy is endangering the health of the American people, now and into the future. Secretary Kennedy must resign. In his place, President Trump must listen to our doctors and scientists and nominate a Secretary of Health and Human Services and a CDC director who will protect the health and well-being of the American people, not implement dangerous conspiracy theories.